Welcome, everyone. Hello, and welcome to our Women of Hockey Power panel. Say that 5 times fast. We're so excited to have you all here, especially our friends from the Black Girl Hockey Club. Thank you so much. And woo! Let's hear it for all of you guys who came out tonight. Really excited to have you here.
Woo!
I don't recommend walking on ice in tennis shoes or high heels, skates only. I'm Michelle Ludtka, your host for the evening. I'm a veteran sportscaster here in Seattle and a longtime advocate of women and girls in sports. And we are here today to celebrate just that. Some amazing women making a huge impact in the sport of hockey, both on and off the ice. And before we get to all the amazing things to come tonight, I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Starbucks, for providing some snacks and some drinks. Hopefully you guys all got something there. And also, big thanks to them for making this all possible. Now, if you're still hungry after our event tonight, make sure and head up to the 32 Bar and Grill, or head over to one of the other rinks where we'll have an open skate going the rest of the evening. Now, we've got a fabulous panel coming your way, but before we get to that, I want to get started with some amazing news that came out of the Kraken organization this week. That, of course, was naming Samantha Holloway as the new executive chairperson of the executive committee. This is a big deal, you guys. Yeah, let's hear it for her. She was already an investor in the organization, and this move makes Holloway just the 4th female NHL owner in a primary role across the league. So great to see. And really no surprise at all that the Kraken would support such a move, because they were built on diversity, equality, and inclusion. When we look across all the full-time employees at the Kraken, 45% of them identify as female. There are 3 women on the executive team. And of course, Seattle hired the first female professional scout, who is now the assistant general manager of the Vancouver Canucks, Cami Granato. So really great things to see from the Kraken. We love them leading the charge and, of course, breaking that glass ceiling. And speaking of breaking glass ceilings, I would like to introduce this amazing woman to my right, Kimberly Sass. Now, she is a professional hockey player herself and an artist. She's traveled here from New York to share her art with us all weekend long. You can see it out on display in the lobby, so make sure to check it out. And with that, let's give Kimberly Sass a warm welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. Hi, Seattle. How you doing tonight? Let's hear it. That was a little weak. Let's go. One more time.
Come on, one more time. We can get louder than that. Yeah! Woohoo!
There we go. First off, huge thank you to the Seattle Kraken for hosting Sass Studio, my art company, and Behind the Front, the title of my show, and Starbucks for being the presenting sponsor of my show. As Michelle mentioned, since the day this team entered the mix, they have been leaders in diversity and inclusivity, and I'm thankful to use their platform to amplify my message through my art show about gender equity in pro women's sports, and specifically ice hockey. The show that's out in the hallway is titled Behind the Front. The slogan is, Are women's pro sports really what they seem? The whole concept is to expose both the positive and the negative realities of pro women's hockey through my experience as a player. And I'll just talk a little bit about the inspiration behind the show. The inspiration came from a lot of frustrations that my teammates and I experienced as players, from paying for your own championship rings, buying livestock tanks that are made for horses to drink out of, to take an ice bath because we weren't allowed to use the facilities 20 feet down the hall, that have ice cubes and Whirlpool cold tubs. It's explaining to your coworkers, why you still work with them if you're a quote unquote professional athlete, over and over again, having to justify this to people. So with that being said, I looked to my art background. I majored in art and geography and then went into architecture. So I looked to my art background to have some kind of productive response to all of these struggles. So the goals of the show, of course, are to raise awareness of these experiences that I'm sure are not, solely in women's pro hockey, other pro sports, women's pro sports. Second, to gather corporate and individual support throughout the tour of Behind the Front, and to raise funds. So all of the artwork out there, the paintings, through the prints and the online auction, 10% of all of those sales will go to the Women's Sports Foundation through April 1st. They're very big in advocacy for all girls, all women, all sports. That's their slogan. And the last goal of my show is to inspire people to speak up if they're going through something, whether it be in sports, at work. Speak up if you feel like you're going through something that isn't right. So go take a look. I think you now understand why there's hay in the hallway. Take a look, buy some artwork, support the Women's Sports Foundation, and my message. Thank you.
Woo! Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Left.
Yes, good luck walking across the ice. But thank you so much.
Stay sassy, Michelle.
Yes, stay sassy. But thank you for sharing your message with us. And remember, you guys, get your bids in. Check out her art show that's here all weekend long through Sunday. And remember, 10% of sales through April 1st go to the Women's Sports Foundation. So really a remarkable cause, a great opportunity to see so many passions come to one here at the Iceplex. It's great. And now we are going to dive into our panel as these other wonderful women slowly make their way across the ice. Yes, let's hear it for these lovely ladies. And as they come in here, I'm going to run you guys through who we have coming in. It's so wonderful. First, we have our Director of Hockey Strategy and Research for the Seattle Kraken, Alexandra Mandrycky. Let's hear it for her. We also have the Kraken Vice President of Strategy and Business Intelligence, Kendall Tyson. From there, we also have Fiona McKenna, who is a business intelligence analyst here at the Kraken and a former collegiate and professional hockey player herself. And last but not least, we have the founder of Black Girl Hockey Club, Renee Hess. Renee, so wonderful to have you here. All of you, so much. Thank you for being here. Now, we're going to dive into a bunch of different questions for each panelist. But before we go kind of into that, I want just kind of a basic answer from all of you guys here on a really great question and the common thing that has brought us here tonight, and that's about hockey. What is it about hockey that you love so much, the game of hockey or being a part of the Kraken organization?
I love that hockey is such a team sport, fast-paced and unpredictable.
The thing that I love the most about hockey is that you can play it year-round, whether you're playing roller hockey with friends in the summertime or here on the ice with a full team. It's an exciting game to play with their friends and in the community.
I like hockey because I think there's nothing like when a goal is scored, especially at Climate Pledge Arena, where the players, coaches, and the fans just have excitement that blows the roof off.
I love the hockey community. You know, it's such a close-knit community and so many amazing people, and I love to watch them rally around a cause, just like they rally around Black Girl Hockey Club.
So wonderful. We're very lucky to have all four of them here with us tonight. And now how I said it was going to kind of go, we're going to work our way down this panel talking about a couple different specifics, career-wise, hockey-wise, women in sports-wise, advice for young girls out there, all that kind of stuff. And now keep in mind, if you guys have any questions that pop up, remember them, because at the end, we're going to have an opportunity for a Q&A with all of our panelists here. So to dive in here to start, let's start with Alexandra. Alexandra, tell us about your childhood. Where did you grow up? How did you get into sports? Did you play any yourself growing up?
I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, which although we had the Atlanta Thrashers at the time, I was not sort of exposed to hockey, but I was really into college football, the NFL. I was a road growing up and in college as well. So really, really into sports, but didn't come into hockey until a little bit later in life.
Now, growing up playing sports, was there anything in particular about them that you, I guess, helped shape you into who you are as an individual today?
I think no matter what sport you play, it's about discipline. It's early mornings, late nights when your friends are, maybe having a fun Friday, but you have to be somewhere at 5 a.m., kind of the discipline and the confidence that I think sports sort of instill. And what was common with rowing, which is what I did, and then I think hockey as well, is it's such a team sport. You can't win a game by yourself. You can't win a race by yourself. And I think that's true, on the ice in hockey, but then also kind of as an organization. It's all about all of us working together.
It's amazing how those life lessons really go from sports through so many other areas of our life. Now, speaking specifically about the role that you're in now, Director of Hockey Strategy and Research, how did you end up in this role? What did you study in school?
Yeah, so I went to Georgia Tech in Atlanta, Georgia. I have a degree in engineering. And I remember in an intro to statistics class, one of the examples that we were using was related to baseball statistics. And at the time, I had been watching hockey for a few years as a fan on TV, and I just asked myself, I wonder if there are hockey statistics? And so I started going down this Google rabbit hole and discovered this really weird part of the internet where people were just arguing about hockey online. But instead of just saying you suck, my team is better, they were like, this math equation says that my team should be winning 5 more games than they did this year. And this player is the reason. And from there, I just kind of became a part of that world, I guess, because the internet, again, is a super weird place. So I followed along a lot of the blogs. I downloaded data. I kind of crunched the numbers on my laptop by myself. And back then, I never, ever imagined that that would lead to me sitting on the ice right here. But yeah, so from there, I kind of got a normal job out of college, kept arguing on the internet about hockey statistics, and ended up working on a website called War on Ice. And it was providing sort of data to fans, but there weren't very many analysts at the time sort of on different hockey teams. So the hockey teams themselves, like the NHL teams, were actually users of this website. And so what the NHL teams ended up doing was hiring all the people running the hockey websites. And that's how I started working with the Minnesota Wild in 2015.
It's amazing. So see, any kids out there who don't know why they're in math class, that is why you're in math class. There's so many things that you can take from school and turn into super cool jobs, like Alexandra is here. And speaking of those data points and that analytics, what kind of stuff do you work on a daily basis that you advise on based on that data?
So I'm part of a team in the hockey operations department where we're basically servicing and providing data technology solutions for the coaches, for pro scouts, amateur scouting, player development, strength and conditioning, kind of anything in the hockey operations department we have our hands in. In addition to kind of the data analysis of, I feel like everyone just thinks, well, which player is best? And yes, I spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. But a lot of it is just, empowering the coaches, empowering the scouts. How can we use technology to kind of improve their quality of life? Because everyone was already using data, whether it's a coach tracking a scoring chance during a game, or a scout, making a game report, filling out a rating. So how can we take the data that they're already collecting and use it to make our organization better?
So fascinating. It's so interesting. I wish I could do even a quarter of what you do with the numbers. Numbers are not my thing. But one thing that I really like to get behind, and it's something that makes me happy that we're seeing more and more often these days, is big headlines. Women becoming the first GM or the first coach and kind of becoming the first, which is so great to see. And that's not just in sports. That's in science. That's in tech. That's in mathematics. But you can't become the first until you build your way up through other positions. And so I'm interested, do you have any advice that you would give to any of the young women in the audience today to break into traditionally male-dominated fields?
I think, start small. Like, my story, right? I was doing it for the love of the game. And I think that's how you have to approach whatever you're doing in life, right? Think about it as a process. Think about it something that you enjoy doing. And, don't set the lofty goal at the top. Think about, if your goal is to work for an NHL team, how could I be an amateur scout? Go to a University of Washington hockey game and write a scouting report, right? Start your portfolio. Send me your University of Washington club hockey scouting report if you want. And start small and then work your way up and go from there.
Absolutely wonderful advice, Alexandra. Thank you so much for your insight. Let's hear it for Alexandra, you guys. All right, passing the mic along now to Kendall. Kendall, thank you so much for being here today. Let's dive into you here. Where did you grow up? Were sports a big part of your childhood? Walk us through the early stages of your life.
Yeah, so I grew up in Eden Prairie, Minnesota. It's a suburb of Minneapolis. And I would say in Minnesota, hockey is to Minnesota as like what football is in Texas. So I grew up around the game. It was, what everyone did on Friday nights. You really support the city that you grow up in, and you have kind of an intense pride for that team and for that school. I grew up playing multiple sports. So I played soccer, basketball, and lacrosse all the way through high school. And hockey was kind of a casual thing that we did in the summertime and just in the wintertime in the neighborhood. In the summer, we would play street hockey and bring the nets out and kind of block the roads. And when cars would come, everyone had to pick up a net and move out of the way so the car could come down the street. And then in the wintertime, we would shovel the pond that was kind of down. It was probably 10, 15-minute walk. It felt like when I was a kid that the pond was huge. Now I go there and I'm like, this is tiny. But shoveling it didn't feel that way. But we would shovel it during the winter time, and we would skate and play hockey on the pond.
That's so neat. And now you and I were talking a little bit earlier today. You shared a fun story with me that I'm really hoping you'll share with us now, because your journey to the Kraken directly ties back to your hockey ties in Minnesota, correct?
It does.
So walk us through the process. Tell us the fun story. How did you get here in Seattle working for the Kraken?
Yeah, so growing up in Minnesota, my family was very much a sports family, and that stems a lot from my dad, who's an orthopedic surgeon and specializes in sports medicine. And so he got involved in hockey very early on and would take us to games and things like that, everything from the high school games to the college games and eventually to the pro games when he became the team doctor for the Minnesota Wild. Well, and Alexandra was there as well. And so he was there at the expansion of that franchise. And so, fast forward quite a few years later, I was here in Seattle working, and my brother was a teacher here as well. He is a lifelong hockey player from the time he learned to skate all the way through college and enjoys going to skate casually. So he was skating at the rink down in Renton. And he was approached by a man who said, "Hey, you're a very good skater," which is true, but also, there's not a lot of people who are skating who look like us and who have that kind of experience. And so they got to talking, and my brother said, "I'm from Minnesota." This guy said, "Oh, I used to work in Minnesota." I was like, "Oh, great." I said, "Oh, yeah, I used to work for the Wild." My brother's like, "Cool, my dad did too." And so he eventually said, "My dad's Dr. Boyd." And the guy's like, "Oh, say hello." and tell him Todd says hi. And my brother, who's, very casual, was like, all right, called my dad, and my dad was very much like, Todd? He's like, yeah, I met Todd Lywecki, I think. And my dad's like, you met Todd Lywecki? Like, go back, you have to talk to him, say hello. And so we connected, and that Sunday, we were having Sunday dinner. My brother came over and very casually was like, oh yeah, I was skating. I'm supposed to tell you that I met this guy, Todd. He's like, and similarly, like my dad was like, you met Todd Lywecki? Like, are you serious? I'm so excited. And we ended up going to get coffee. And as the analytics type A person in the family, I was very prepared. And my brother, as the casual teacher, was like just there for the coffee. And it was a really great conversation, primarily because if you've met Todd, he has a very amazing way about him. And he already had kind of made up his mind that he was like, yeah, Kendall, totally. I got your pitch. You'll do great. We need your skill set. No problem. I was maybe 10 minutes of the coffee. And then Todd turned his attention to my brother and said, okay, I'm basically going to convince you to leave your career in teaching because I think you have a higher ceiling building youth hockey and the development of hockey and the game with the Seattle Kraken. So myself and my brother now actually work together here at the Seattle Kraken, and that's how we ended up here.
Is a good story, right? Right? That's an amazing story. She told me that earlier and I was like, are you kidding? That's so great. And you touched on something there, especially with your brother's role, the fact that Todd saw him and that you said you don't see a lot of people of color in hockey. And I think that's something so important to talk about with this panel as well, that representation matters and the effort that the Kraken is making to try and change that moving forward.
Yeah, I think it speaks a lot to kind of the sport of my choice growing up. So, I would say when I was as an avid sports fan growing up, you wouldn't see, the only time I would see women's sports on TV was during the Olympics or, they would show maybe like 4 women's college basketball games a year. And that was it. But that was enough for me. I looked at the TV and said, okay, people who look like me, women, they play basketball. And so that's what I chose. And so played basketball and I loved the game and played all through college. But that's just a sense of representation and why it's important to see so many women who are now playing hockey. You can turn on, an ESPN Plus and watch a women's college hockey game. That's a really big deal. And so I think the more we can kind of highlight those moments in which women are playing not only hockey, but other sports, make sure that we're including women in activities here in this incredible complex so that as other young women are, whether they're coming to support the Kraken or coming to support other organizations, they can see people who look like them playing the game that they potentially love.
It's so important. Well said. I just think it's such an important cause, and everyone needs to see themselves in whatever it is that they want to do. And before we wrap it up here with you, Kendall, there's one other thing I'd love to touch on here, because not only are you in this amazing role with the Kraken, having an incredible career, but you're also a mother. And that takes a balancing act, but a very admirable balancing act. And I was wondering for anyone possibly in the crowd, if you had any advice for them of how do you balance those two passions of your career and family?
Yeah, I'd say, I think one of the biggest things that I've had to learn over the course of the last few years, my daughter, she'll be 2.5 here in a few months, and then I've got one on the way. But I think the biggest thing I've had to learn is that it's all kind of one life. I kind of really stopped thinking about it as compartments and thinking about balance and really just making sure that I was giving all of myself in each of the different moments. So when I'm here at work, I try to really be focused at work. When I'm at home with my family, I try to be really focused on home and my family. And that amount of time may not be 100% equal or equal parts every single day, but I try to be incredibly intentional and lean on the incredible support system and the people around me in this community to help me make it all work.
And the Kraken is lucky to have you. Thank you so much, Kendall. Now, wait, before you pass that mic along yet, we're not doing that quite yet. This one might be a little bit of a surprise to you because this is something that I talked to Alexandra about. This is super neat, you guys. These two women actually went through the same program at the same university, just a couple years different. And I wanted to point that out and see if you guys had any comments on this, just how you can go, you can learn things, but how cool it is that you can take an education into totally different realms and develop it into a role that really fits you.
Yeah, so similar to Alexandra, I'm also have an industrial engineering degree from Georgia Tech. And I would say, you can choose so many different paths. I also have a sociology degree. So it meant you can do lots of different things regardless of what you study. And I think the nice thing about whether it's a career in engineering or business or other fields, really just you can apply all those different skill sets of hard work, your work ethic, being a lifelong learner, whatever you choose, you can apply that across several different careers. And, Alex and I happen to just both be good at math and decided to be engineers and now do quite a bit of math for a living. So that's it.
I love that. Alexandra, anything you wanted to add about that?
I'll just say go Jackets.
We'll give her that. Awesome. Thank you, ladies. All right, we're handing the mic on down now to Fiona. Fiona, you are a former collegiate and professional hockey player. You got to tell us, how did you get into the game?
So definitely a unique story. I didn't start playing hockey until I was 12, and I think there's some maybe 12-year-olds or young girls out there. So if you don't play yet, it's not too late. If you already play, you're already ahead of the game. So that's good. I started playing because neighbors, all boys, played street hockey outside, and I just would do it all the time. I played other sports as well, but no one in my family played hockey. No one really. My mom actually figure skated, but it wasn't in my family. So long story short, I begged my parents in 6th grade, and I was like, please, I'll find equipment. I want to play. And my mom was like, what the heck? Okay, let's do this. I got definitely lucky in that sense that found a good team, but to help me develop. I think that's my story. It's different. Most of my college teammates grew up, first thing they did when they could walk was get on skates. But it doesn't have to be that way.
Never too late to try something new. Now, I've heard this a lot in talking to women who did get the chance to play hockey growing up, that there wasn't necessarily maybe as many opportunities for young girls. I mean, there was opportunities on boys teams, but not specific girls programs. Did you grow up playing mostly with the boys? You touched on a little bit there, but competitively?
So like I said, played street hockey with all boys. And then I played like an in-house boys league just as like my first team. I definitely was the only girl in that league. And then from there on out, found like a flyer online for this club that was all girls, and I tried out. God only knows how I made that, but we made it, and it was all girls from there on out.
Very cool. Now, how did you come to work at the Kraken?
So basically, I think after college, I hung up the skates. Well, I played a year of pro, then hung up the skates, and thought that I could enter corporate America and make some money and live a life, and realized after a couple years that my biggest passion is hockey and always has been, and I wanted to combine, my brain with hockey as a career. So this is my boss's boss next to me, and I stalked her on LinkedIn for like about 2 years, and basically messaged her like, "Hey, you work for the Kraken. I work in finance. I don't know anything about what you do, but I want to talk to you." Waited. She posted roles, and I was not necessarily qualified from a tech skill perspective, but I applied and said, "I want this. I'll do whatever it takes."
Such a great lesson there. Don't ever be afraid to ask questions or put yourself in uncomfortable situations, because those are usually the situations that pay out the most. Now, in addition to your day job with the Kraken, you also work here at the Iceplex as a developmental coach, which is something that's obviously, we've heard about a little bit tonight, very important to the Kraken community, growing the game. What is it like to see the momentum build behind hockey here in the Pacific Northwest?
Yeah, it's amazing. I didn't know what to expect coming out here. I had never been really to Seattle before moving out here, but our development team here, if you guys don't know yet, they have the most participants in the adult skate program in the country. And they are just pumping in kids to try this amazing game. So out here on the ice after work, it's definitely a highlight to see little kids, girls and boys, come out here and play wearing the Kraken jersey. And the goal, of course, is that they fall in love with the game and want to play for forever, and also are Kraken fans for forever. So it's an exciting time, and it's just going to grow exponentially, and it's fun to be a part of.
Yes, Kraken fans first and foremost, right? Always.
Definitely.
Now, you talked about, seeing this game in kids. You yourself played sports as a child. How important do you think sports are, in particularly hockey, for teaching those kind of life lessons for kids to take on with them in life?
Definitely. I think that for kids in general, but especially for females, playing hockey teaches confidence. You're going to get knocked down literally on the ice all the time, into the boards, and lose games and whatnot. And I think it teaches you to get back up. I also think that there's something so special about teams in hockey, because what you go through on the ice, whether it's blocking a shot or winning a trophy, right? You bonded for forever. And I think that actually my college teammates in the stands over there, and she'll be a best friend for life because we played this game for years. So yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but it's special, and I hope everyone experiences it.
And it was a great answer. Wasn't it a great answer? Let's hear it for Fiona. Thank you so much for giving us all that insight there. All right, moving down the line, last but definitely not least, we go to Renee now. And Renee, tell us about your background and how you first got introduced to hockey.
Well, I am from Southern California, and I always say I'm a fan of being a fan. I work in academia, and I got my degrees in literature and in writing. And while I was working and teaching at the university, I was also working in a community organization. I would send students out into the community. I still do that in my day job. And, I came across hockey because I love fandom. And hockey has a wonderful fandom. It's a great community. Coming from Southern California, we've got our Disney and we've got our Star Wars. And so I was looking for something a little bit different and something for me. And hockey had always intrigued me. Didn't grow up playing sports. I was more of sitting in the bleachers, reading a book or working on my homework. And so when hockey kind of came into my purview, I reached out to some friends who I knew we had some similar interests. And I said, okay, I need a hockey primer. How do I get into this sport? What should I be doing? And it was really the internet and researching. That's how I came to it, with a kind of a academic mind. And as I was kind of doing that, I realized, I went to my first game and I was hooked. The aesthetic of the game, the chill of the ice, and it's so much fun being in a humongous arena with a bunch of fans cheering on, the team and one goal. And so that was how I kind of fell in love with the game a few years back. And then, I was following along with a team that happened to win the Stanley Cup. And I was like, oh, this is fun. Nobody told me it wasn't always going to be like that. But I was hooked after that.
Who doesn't like winning, right?
Exactly.
I mean, winning's the best. Winning is the best. You mentioned it there, how special the community is in hockey. What do you think it is about hockey fans that sets them apart from other sport fans?
Hockey fans are focused on the team. And like everyone on this panel has said, it's something that's innate. You can't do it without the person next to you. And you can't do it on your own. And I have seen hockey rally around various causes for years. And that was something that was really inspiring for me. And as a Black woman, one thing that I realized that was missing was the voice of Black women. And so that was something that, with my background in academia and in community organizing, I really took it upon myself to kind of figure out how best we could create a community for Black women in hockey so that we could gain access to the various levels of hockey, whether it's playing on the ice or, working in the C-suites. Black Girl Hockey Club community is spreading that message that Black women are here. We play the sport, we watch the sport, we want to work in the sport. We just need the access. We need the ability and some of those doors to be open. And so that's what Black Girl Hockey Club is all about. The programming that we put together is incredibly intentional to be able to touch on the various access points of hockey, whether it's financial barriers or just access to ice and location and stuff like that. So yeah.
It's amazing everything you're doing there as the founder of Black Girl Hockey Club. I love to see it. It's such an amazing organization. If you haven't heard about it, please go look it up. It's wonderful. Over the years, you being a part of that, how has the Black Girl Hockey Club evolved?
We started out just hanging out and going to games. That was the beginning of it. We wanted to spend time in the space together and share joy. And that's something I talk about all the time within Black Girl Hockey Club is it's a space for joy. Yes, we have traumatic experiences, and yes, we might be the only one in the space, but what brings us all together is the love of hockey. And that is what, gives us purpose. And it's amazing because Black women, we have a different perspective. And so it's necessary and it's important to kind of bring us into those conversations, especially in hockey. It's 2022, the demographics of sports and of hockey are changing. And I think, teams like the Kraken are at the forefront of that change.
In addition to the Black Girl Hockey Club, you've also created the Get Uncomfortable campaign to disrupt racism both on and off the ice. Tell us a little bit about that campaign and how rewarding is it to be a part of these different initiatives that are really impacting positive change?
Yeah, so the Get Uncomfortable campaign is an advocacy campaign. And the tenets of the Get Uncomfortable campaign are to encourage young Black girls to get involved in the sport of ice hockey, to employ Black women in all aspects and all levels of ice hockey, and then to educate the hockey community on why these things are important. And it's been really successful. We've had over 7,000 folks sign the Get Uncomfortable pledge. You can find it on our website at blackgirlhockeyclub.org if you're interested in it. We've had teams, come behind and become behind the pledge and sign it and really take it up, like the Kraken. They were one of the first teams that took up the Black Girl Hockey Club pledge even before they had folks on the ice. We've been talking about, how we can work together, and it's been really amazing to see the reception of the hockey community and how folks are willing and ready and waiting for a culture shift in hockey. Inclusiveness is something that's really important to the Seattle Kraken particularly, and something that I've admired watching them really take up that mantle and say, even though we're new and we're an expansion team, we're going to start from the right place. And they don't just do it, on the ice and in the stands, but in the local community. And I think that's what really matters, because these are the kids that are going to grow up, as you said, as Kraken fans, right? We want to keep them Kraken fans, but we also have to realize that there's an untapped demographic out there that's just waiting for, actually we're not waiting, we're here. And we're making our way in, and folks can like it or they can feel some sort of a way, but that's what those uncomfortable conversations are about, and that's what the Get Uncomfortable pledge is all about.
Any particular proud moment that you have over the evolution of this club that you'd like to share with us?
I could talk about our programming. We've got an amazing scholarship program that has given over $40,000 to girls who play hockey from Kenya to Canada to California. We've got awesome leadership and development mentorship program for older folks who maybe don't skate, but they're young professionals who want to work in hockey. And that's something that our board president and secretary have been working really hard to cultivate in the last year. We've got a bunch of mentors and mentees connected to one another. Of course, our meetups and our events and our panels are really fun. But I gotta say, I see out there some Seattle Kraken, Black Girl Hockey Club co-branded gear, and that makes me proud because the intentionality behind the work that the Kraken does, I can see it at every turn, you know, and it's really that intentionality that we need in the sport of ice hockey if we're going to not just diversify it, but make it equitable for everyone.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Renee, and for all the good work that you're doing. Yes, let's hear it for Renee. And Renee, I know you said it before, but let's say it one more time. How can people find out more information about what you're doing?
Yeah, well, Black Girl Hockey Club, we live on the internet. So you can follow us on social media at Black Girl Hockey, or you can go to our website, blackgirlhockeyclub.org, and check out our programming, take the Get Uncomfortable pledge, and sign up for our newsletter so that you can meet us at our next hangout.
Awesome, wonderful. All right, well, that does it for my questions for these amazing panelists here, but now we get to open it up to all of you. I'm not sure if we have a microphone possibly going around or if you're gonna just be really loud and yell, possibly, but I would say if you can raise your hand if you've got a question. All right, we'll start with you right there, and I will stop talking, so just go ahead.
Said is women's hockey less violent than men because of rules? Sure. I'm gonna give it to the hockey.
Okay. Your question was, why is women's hockey less violent than men's hockey? Oh, is it? Oh, sure. Is it because of rules or because women don't want that in the game? Okay.
So again, the question is women's hockey not as violent as men's, and is that because of rules or because women just don't want it to be as violent? Would you like to go ahead, Fiona?
Women like to be aggressive out there. Let me be super clear. I love that question. I got a lot of penalties, but that's beside the point. No, there's rules for sure. I think it actually is positive in the sense that the women's game is a lot more about speed, first and foremost, as well as skill with the puck. Different types of games, which I think is awesome. Both are amazing. But yeah, there's rules where, you can't have open ice hits. You can, for example, you can still use your body a lot. If you've ever watched US versus Canada in the Olympics, those girls are throwing their bodies around and the refs kind of let everything go. And millions of viewers watch the game, right? So there's lots of rules. I think the game is always developing and changing, just like the men's game. But no, the women want aggression.
Anyone else have a question? We have a microphone now. Don't be shy. Okay.
Hello. Hi. I love that there's so many women and a diversity of women within all the various organizations. What do you think it will take to bring a pro women's team to Seattle?
Probably me. Oh man, that's definitely, I think, one of the things I think is really awesome about the ownership group here and the leadership group with the Kraken is that we think about that a lot. I will also say we just launched one team and I haven't slept much. So though I'm very hopeful, I would like to sleep a little bit before we bring on some new teams. But I will say that, as much as we're trying to grow the game for all walks of life, like I said about representation, bringing a women's team here would really just add to our portfolio, add to the opportunity for young women to see the game played at such a high level. So it's definitely something that's on our radar and we think about quite a bit.
Hey, not a question, but a comment, and maybe a little in a response to yours. The Seattle Women's Hockey Club is actually playing on Rink 2 as we speak. And right now it's the advanced team that's playing, and I think the next game after is the beginner team. So you can see two very different levels of play, and depending on the team, generally I would say people end up in the penalty box because they usually made a mistake. They're not out to hurt each other, right? It's a friendly game, but it's very competitive. So I would encourage you to check that out if you're interested. Allison and I both play, but obviously not tonight. And so if you have any questions about Seattle Women's Hockey Club, let us know. And then we also have a fundraiser on April 2nd. You can check out on our social media if you're interested. So just wanted to share.
Hi, thank you, ladies. This question is for Renee. It's so great to have you here. I know it's your first Kraken game tomorrow. What are you most excited about experiencing at the game and at Carmen Pledge Arena?
Okay, I'm excited to wear my Kraken gear because I have so much. I've actually been able to wear something different every day that I've been here. So I'm excited for that. And just, the atmosphere. I heard the arena's beautiful. I cannot wait to be inside of it. I mean, I love a hockey game, right? It's just so much fun. Give me a pretzel, give me a hot cocoa. I want to chill in my seat and see the Kraken win tomorrow. That's what I'm looking forward to. Go Kraken.
Thank you, ladies, for this amazing panel. You all have talked a lot about the soul of the Seattle Kraken organization being inclusivity and diversity. I'm curious to know if some of that, do you see that rubbing off on the league in general? Do you see that effectuating in other teams? And can you talk about some of the things that you're doing that other teams or other leagues are taking from what you all are doing here with the Kraken?
I asked for the mic back because when I talk to other teams, and I was talking to your team yesterday about this, I always bring up the Kraken, and other teams get a little salty sometimes because the Kraken are new. They're an expansion team. They were able to hire from scratch. But honestly, what the Kraken are doing in the community and the intentionality behind their hiring practices, the community organizations that they engage with, it's amazing to see. And so I often talk to the other teams. Original Six, they don't like it. But you know what? That's their problem. What the Kraken are doing really shows what hockey could be. Let me tell you, when we walked into the offices yesterday, I've never seen so many melanated people in a hockey office, okay? And I'm not lying. And I was talking to somebody who works here and who's actually from here and hasn't worked in hockey before, a Black person, and they actually didn't understand what I was saying. They're like, really? It's not like this everywhere? I said, no, man, it really isn't. What you guys are doing here is unique, and it's special, and it's inspiring. It gives me hope for the game that we can evolve in a way that is equitable, but also financially sound and business oriented, and actually do some good in these communities where hockey rinks are.
I can speak to kind of the hockey operation side of that. I think something that I'm really proud of, when we first hired Cami Granado as a pro scout, I think a few weeks later, a month later, we learned that there was a WHL team that hired an assistant coach who is a woman. And the quote from the head coach was basically like, I hadn't really thought about it. And then I read that the Kraken did it. And I thought, why not, right? It's a copycat league on the ice a lot of the times when we talk about roster construction. And I think in the same way, sometimes the hiring practices, we hope it's infectious to the other organizations. And I think we're seeing, in the 3 years even since, the Kraken started hiring, the number of women who are scouts, who are in player development across the league has, I won't say that there's a ton, but there's a heck of a lot more than there were 3 years ago. And I think that's really exciting.
I think we have time for one more question if there's any more out there. If not, I'm going to jump in with my own question. So going once, going twice. Okay. Oh, no? You got a question? Okay, question sold to me then instead. All right, my last question for you ladies as we wrap things up here. We've talked about so many amazing things across the Kraken organization, the NHL, hockey beyond. I'm curious, open-ended, what are your hopes for hockey here in the Pacific Northwest, either for the game, the community, the league, the team, any and all of the above?
A Stanley Cup.
That's tough to follow. I think, one of the things I really like about this place is, there's very much a connection that Renee has talked about with the community. And I think a lot about our offices kind of being right there. And I would love for one day to see a women's championship of youth and, little kids to middle, to adults just playing here on this rink. The same rink that the pros play on. I think it would be really exciting to see some sort of women's showcase of championships and just seeing all the young girls and women who love this game as much as I do playing here on this ice.
I would say, I think this is in the spirit of women in hockey, is I hope the Kraken hire the first female GM.
Hey, I love it. My hope for the Kraken, I was going to talk about a women's league because being on the West Coast, we don't, the closest women's team is the Whitecaps. Come on, we need a women's team on this side. But since we were already talking about that, one thing that I would say is I just really want to see the Kraken to continue to be a leader in the NHL and in the hockey community because they've really set the bar on how to build up a diverse club. And I want to continue to see that. And let's get a Black woman GM. How about that?
All right, well, that does it for our Women in Hockey Power panel. Let's hear it again for Alexandra, Kendall, Fiona, and Renee. You guys were absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let's also hear it for Kimberly, who shared her story with us earlier. Make sure and get out and check out her amazing artwork on display here at the Iceplex all through Sunday. And of course, another thank you to our partners, Starbucks, for making all of this possible. Again, check out the art display. If you're hanging around for a little while longer, go grab some food up in the 32 Bar and Grill, and make sure and also check out the new line of merchandise at the team store with the Women of Hockey design, which I believe is this beautiful design that we're seeing right here. But again, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. A big thanks to the people of the Kraken behind the scenes who made this possible. This wouldn't have happened without them. Lastly, I'm Michelle Ludtka. Thank you for putting up with me tonight, you guys. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope you guys all had fun and get home safe tonight.